The trading post sat at the crossroads of two worlds, a place where white settlers and Apache came to exchange goods, though the exchange was rarely fair. The trader, a man named Hobbs, had made his fortune on the desperation of others. He bought low and sold high, and he did not care whose hunger filled his pockets. The Apache called him Coyote because he was clever and hungry and had no loyalty to anyone but himself. He wore the name like a badge of honor, and he had grown rich on the suffering of people who had nowhere else to go. She walked into the trading post on a Thursday afternoon when the sun was low and the shadows were long. Her name was Kaya, and she was a widow. Her husband had been killed in a raid 6 months ago, and her people had been moved to a reservation that was too small and too far from everything they had known. She had come to the trading post because she had no other choice. Her children were hungry. The winter was coming, and the only thing she owned that was worth anything was the necklace her mother had given her on the day she became a woman. The necklace was beautiful. Beads of turquoise and coral woven into patterns that told the story of her family, of the women who had worn it before her, of the generations who had passed it down. She had hoped never to sell it. She had hoped to give it to her own daughter, to continue the chain that connected her people to their past. But hope did not fill bellies, and the children were crying, and she had not eaten in 2 days. She laid the necklace on the counter, and Hobbs picked it up, turning it over in his fat fingers, his eyes calculating. "How much?" she asked. Her voice was steady, though her hands were shaking. Hobbs looked at her, at the necklace, at the hunger in her face. He named a price. It was insulting, barely enough for a sack of flour and a few strips of dried meat. She knew it was insulting. She knew he was stealing from her, the same way he stole from everyone who came through his door. But she had nowhere else to go, and the children were waiting, and she could not afford pride. "Yes," she said, "I will take it." A voice came from the back of the room. "No, you won't." She turned, and so did Hobbs. A man was standing in the shadows, a man she had not noticed when she came in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a face that had been weathered by years in the sun. He wore the clothes of a rancher, boots and denim, and a hat that had seen better days. He stepped forward, and his eyes were on her, not on Hobbs. "That necklace is worth 10 times what he's offering, maybe more." Hobbs's face flushed. "This is my establishment. I set the prices." The rancher ignored him. He walked to the counter, stood beside her, and looked at the necklace in Hobbs's hands. "How much do you need?" She stared at him, confused. "What?" He turned to her, and his voice was patient, kind. "For the necklace. How much do you need to get through the winter?" She did not know what to say. She had never been asked that question before. No one had ever cared how much she needed. They only cared how much they could take. $50, she said finally. Maybe 60. Enough for food, blankets, supplies for the children. The rancher reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather pouch. He counted out $60 in gold coins and laid them on the counter. Then he looked at Hobbs and held out his hand. "The necklace." Hobbs hesitated, his eyes darting between the gold and the rancher's face. He saw something there that made him decide not to argue. He handed over the necklace, and the rancher took it. Then he turned to Kaya and held it out to her. "This is yours. Keep it. Sell it when you have no other choice. But not today." She stared at the necklace, then at the gold on the counter, then at the man who had given it to her. "I don't understand," she said. "Why are you doing this?" He shrugged, a small gesture, almost embarrassed. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because that necklace is worth more than $60. Because you shouldn't have to sell your mother's memory to feed your children." He picked up the gold and pressed it into her hands. "Take this. Buy what you need. And if you need more, come find me. My ranch is at the edge of the valley. As for Samuel, she did not know what to say. She had never been given anything without strings attached. In her experience, white men did not help Apache women unless they wanted something in return. She searched his face for the hidden price, the demand that would come later. the thing he would ask for when she least expected it. She found nothing but patience and kindness, and it confused her more than cruelty would have. "Thank you," she said finally. He nodded, tipped his hat, and walked out of the trading post without looking back. She bought the supplies she needed: flour, salt, dried meat, blankets for the children. She carried them back to the reservation, her arms full, her heart lighter than it had been in months. The children ran to meet her, their faces lighting up at the sight of food. She fed them, watched them eat, and for the first time since her husband died, she did not feel completely alone. But she could not stop thinking about the rancher, about his voice, his eyes, the way he had looked at her like she was a person, not a problem to be solved. The weeks passed. The winter came, cold and hard, but she had enough to get through. She thought about going to find him, to thank him properly, to return the money she had not been able to repay, but pride held her back. She did not want to be indebted to anyone. She did not want to be seen as a woman who needed saving. She had survived on her own for 6 months. She would continue to survive. But the thought of him lingered, a warmth she could not explain, a memory that would not fade. He came to her in the spring. She was working in the small garden she had planted behind her shelter, her hands in the earth, her face turned toward the sun. She heard a horse and looked up, and there he was, sitting on a gray mare, his hat in his hands. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said. She stood, brushing the dirt from her hands, her heart beating faster than it should have. "You're not." He dismounted and walked toward her, stopping at the edge of the garden. "I came to see how you were doing. If you needed anything." She invited him to sit, and they sat together in the shade of a cottonwood tree, the first of the season's leaves beginning to show. He asked about her children, about her garden, about the winter that had finally released its grip. She answered his questions, and she found herself asking questions of her own, about his ranch, his cattle, his life. He talked easily, comfortably, as if they had known each other for years. She learned that he was not married, that he had come west from Missouri, that he had built his ranch with his own hands and was proud of it, though he was too humble to say so. He came back the next week, and the week after, and the week after that. He brought gifts for the children, small things, a carved horse, a bag of sweets, a book with pictures that they pored over for hours. He helped her in the garden, mended a fence that had been broken since the winter, taught her son to ride on the back of his gentle mare. The children loved him. She tried not to. She told herself he was just being kind, that he was just a good man, that there was nothing more to it than friendship. But her heart did not listen. The moment came on a summer evening, when the sun was setting behind the mountains and the air was soft and warm. They were sitting on the ground outside her shelter, watching the children play, when he turned to her and spoke. "Kaya, I need to tell you something." Her heart stopped. She had been waiting for this, dreading it, hoping for it. "What is it?" He was quiet for a moment, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes on the horizon. "I didn't give you that money because I felt sorry for you. I gave it to you because I couldn't stand to see you give away something so precious. And I've been coming here because I want to be near you." She looked at him, at his face in the fading light, at the man who had seen her at her lowest and had not turned away. "Samuel." He shook his head, cutting her off. "You don't have to say anything. I know you've been through things I can't imagine. I know you have your pride, your people, your way of life. I'm not asking you to give any of that up. I'm just asking if you might let me be part of it." He looked at her, and his eyes were the same eyes she had seen in the trading post, patient kind, asking for nothing but hoping for everything. She did not answer him that night. She told him she needed time to think, and he nodded, kissed her hand, and rode away. She sat alone in the darkness, watching the stars appear, and she thought about the man who had given her $60 and asked for nothing in return. She thought about the way he looked at her children, the way he helped her in the garden, the way he made her feel like she was not alone. She thought about her husband, about the life they had planned, about the dreams that had died with him. And she thought about the future, about what she wanted, about what she deserved. She went to him the next day. She rode to his ranch, the necklace her mother had given her around her neck, the beads catching the sunlight. She found him in the barn, mending a harness, his hands busy, his back to the door. She stood in the doorway and watched him for a moment, and then she spoke. "Samuel." He turned, and his face broke into a smile when he saw her. "Kaya, I didn't expect." She crossed the barn and stood before him, close enough to touch, close enough to see the pulse beating in his throat. "I thought about what you said, about wanting to be part of my life." He waited, his hands still, his eyes on her face. "I have been alone for a long time," she said. "I thought I was fine with that. I thought I didn't need anyone. But you came to the trading post and you gave me money, and you asked for nothing in return. You came to my home and you helped my children, and you made me laugh. You made me feel like I was not invisible, like I was not just a widow, not just an Apache, not just someone to be pitied. You made me feel seen." She reached up and touched his face, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "I don't want to be alone anymore." He kissed her then, gentle at first, as if she might break, and then deeper, as if he had been waiting for this moment for longer than he knew. She kissed him back, and in that kiss, she felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble. She had been so careful, so guarded, so afraid of being hurt again. But standing in that barn, with his arms around her and his heart beating against hers, she knew that she was not afraid anymore. He was not trying to save her. He was not trying to own her. He was simply there, asking to be part of her life, offering nothing but himself. And that was enough. That was more than enough. They were married in the fall, in a small ceremony at the edge of his ranch, with her children and his hands in the mountains watching. She wore her mother's necklace, the beads shining in the autumn light, and he wore a smile that did not leave his face for the rest of the day. She had walked into the trading post with nothing but her pride and her mother's memory. She had been ready to sell the last piece of her heritage for bread. But a quiet rancher had stopped her, had seen her, had given her something she had not known she needed. Not money, not rescue, respect. And from that small act of decency, something beautiful had grown. A friendship, a partnership, a love that asked for nothing and gave everything. She still had the necklace. She would give it to her daughter someday, along with the story of the man who had saved it, and the woman who had learned that she was worth more than the price of flour.